Hello everyone, it's 10:30 a.m. in the Iranian capital. Thank you for joining us here on Press TV World News. Now, the French capital remains in a state of shock. At least 150 people have been killed and over 200 injured in a string of gun and bomb attacks across the city. Black-clad gunmen burst into a concert hall in central Paris, taking scores of people hostage. Then they sprayed their captives with bullets and then blew themselves up when police stormed the building. Several nearby restaurants had also come under attack, with assailants opening fire on people, leaving many dead. At least 3 bombs also detonated near the Stade de France stadium, where President Hollande was watching a game between France and Germany. Authorities say that 8 attackers have been killed, but it isn't clear if there are any accomplices at large. French media says that ISIL has claimed responsibility. French President François Hollande, visiting the scene of one of the terrorist attacks in Paris, said the country is determined to fight terrorists with no mercy.
We wanted to be there among those who saw these awful things to say that we are going to fight, and that this fight will be merciless. Because when terrorists are capable of such atrocities, they should know that they'll be faced with a France that's determined, a France that's united, a France which stands together, a France which will not be intimidated, even if today we're infinitely moved by this tragedy.
Hollande called the terrorists, quote, savages who have the desire to kill as many people as they can. French presidents declared a state of emergency across the country. A mandatory curfew has also been declared in Paris, which is the first since the end of the Second World War. There are now some 1,500 extra soldiers that have been deployed in the French capital following Hollande's order, which is asking for military backup. The country's borders have also been shut. The French president urged the nation to stand firm and united. He made the statement after holding a crisis meeting with top security officials in the Interior Ministry. Iranian President Hassan Rouhani has also strongly condemned the terrorist attacks in Paris. In a letter to his French counterpart, Rouhani branded the attacks as crimes against humanity. He also offered condolences to the government and people of France. Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif also slammed the violence and said that ISIL Takfiri militants pose a serious threat not only to the Middle East, but also to the entire world. He also noted that Tehran had warned about such deadly attacks in the past and called for international cooperation to prevent them. Zarif also said the Iranian president has postponed his European tour.
Now we need to focus on fighting terrorism. So Mr. Rouhani has cancelled his European tour, which was expected to take him to Italy, the Vatican and France. He is set to make the tour in a more appropriate time in the near future. Now I am heading for Vienna to take part in international talks on the Syria crisis.
Paris terrorist attacks have sparked international condemnation. UN Chief Ban Ki-moon has condemned the attacks and extended his deepest condolences to the people of France. U.S. President Barack Obama also strongly condemned them, pledging to work with France to bring those responsible to justice. The European Commission President Jean-Claude Juncker also and NATO head Jens Stoltenberg also said they're deeply shocked. The UN Security Council, Britain and Russia have also condemned the violence. Germany, Belgium, Latin American states, Turkey, Australia and China are among other countries that have slammed the terrorist attacks. Now, the Syrian army, backed by national defense forces, continues to swiftly advance in south of Aleppo amid a collapse in terrorist morale due to heavy losses in the region. Our correspondent Mohammed Ali details the army advances and its plans to connect Aleppo countryside to Idlib.
The Syrian army has been making fresh gains south of Aleppo in its fight against foreign-backed terrorists. This time, the army, along with national defense forces, took control of Al-Hadr town, the main stronghold of the Qaeda-linked Al-Nusra Front south of Aleppo.
We are hunting down the terrorists. We took control of several areas here and we will continue advancing town after the other. We are determined to purge our land of terrorists and nothing will stop us.
Securing the town of Al-Hadr was a heavy blow to Al-Nusra Front. The group has been using buildings there as field hospitals for the wounded terrorists in the region. Here, they used to refine the oil they extracted illegitimately. Many terrorists were also killed during the confrontations, while others ran away. The El-Ais strategic hill has also been secured, along with the towns of Tel Bajir, Tleilat, Mariouda and many others. The Syrian army has been able to secure several towns and villages here in Aleppo countryside. We are accompanying Syrian army units to several towns and villages that have been controlled. Now, tens of kilometers that were once under the control of terrorists are now secured. Over 341 square kilometers are now secured, and the number is on the rise. Syrian army commanders made it clear that the operations will not stop in Aleppo countryside. The main objectives of the army offensive are widening the security perimeter around Aleppo and reaching the international highway between the city and Damascus. Then, the army will march towards Idlib countryside. Hamad Ali, Press TV, Aleppo countryside.
And Russia says its warplanes hit nearly 290 terrorist targets in more than 100 combat sorties in several regions across Syria on Wednesday and Thursday.
As a result of these attacks, 34 command and control planes, 16 ammunition depots containing explosives and engine materials, and 2 factories for improvised weapons production and explosives for suicide bombers were destroyed. Also, 3 camps or terrorist training bases were destroyed with airstrikes against more than 145 terrorist strongholds.
Konashenkov said a large number of Syrian civilians are joining the war against terrorists, including Daesh Takfiri group. He said around 4,000 people have already signed up, and then Konashenkov also said that they're placed on duty after receiving their essential training, and Moscow started its air campaign in Syria on September 30th following a request by the Syrian government. Attacks which provide for air cover for Syrian forces on the ground have inflicted heavy losses and casualties on terrorists across the country. The president of Iraq's Kurdistan region has announced the victory of Kurdish forces over Daesh terrorists in the strategic city of Sinjar.
Without doubt, any victory in any area will have a big impact on achieving victory in remaining areas, and without doubt the liberation of Sinjar will have a big impact on liberating Mosul.
Masoud Barzani called the liberation of Sinjar a strategic prize, saying Takfiri terrorists will be forced out of the rest of the areas in western Iraq as well. He also hailed the Izadi minority for their steadfastness against terrorists and called it a genuine part of the Kurdish people. On Friday, Kurdish Peshmerga forces and Izadi volunteers pushed deep into Sinjar, forcing ISIL terrorists to flee. The city, which links Mosul in northeastern Iraq and Raqqa in northwestern Syria, has been a key supply of terrorists. Now, police in Turkey have detained 5 pro-Kurdish journalists in the eastern town of Ercis. The journalists were accused of covering violent clashes between Kurdistan Workers' Party and security forces, which occurred earlier in the day. The arrest prompted a scuffle between police and a crowd of journalists present at the scene. Police also fired shots to disperse the crowd. Now, earlier on Friday, clashes between police and PKK militants left a Turkish soldier dead and 3 others injured. 4 PKK members were also detained during the violence. Residents of Silvan, a district in Turkey's southeastern Diyarbakir province, have fled their homes after 10 days of non-stop clashes between the army and militants from the Kurdistan Workers' Party. A study released by Turkey's Human Rights Association says some 128 civilians were killed between June and November in clashes in the region. Press TV's Rashan Saglam has more.
Many Silvan residents have been forced to flee their homes and seek refuge in safer areas after 12 days of curfews and non-stop clashes. Tekel, Konak and Mesjid neighborhoods have seen fierce clashes between government forces and suspected members of the outlawed Kurdistan Workers' Party or the PKK. Tanks and Rio vans have been deployed to the entrances and exits of the district, as well as in the surrounding hills. Turkey's Human Rights Association, also known as the IHD, released a report on November 10 shedding light on the civilian casualties and violations of human rights during the clashes.
Silvan has been under siege for 12 days. 3 neighborhoods are under continuous mortar fire and under blockade of military vehicles. According to statistics of the IHD, 128 people, including 41 children, lost their lives, along with 195 people, including 51 children, got injured between June 7 and November 9. The total death toll of the civilians is 261, while the number of injured civilians is 759. This is an extremely high figure.
The total civilian death toll